Hello, and welcome to the second and final part of my Virgin Trains West Coast mini-series. In this two-part series so far, we have looked at the early operations of one of Britain's most well-known former train operators, Virgin Trains West Coast, where we have looked so far at their operations from 1997 up until 2011. In this second episode, we will look at their final years of operations, before I look at whether Virgin Trains deserve to be fondly remembered as an operator. Do ensure you watch the first episode now to get up to scratch with Virgin's operations thus far. As well as this, if you do enjoy this video, be sure to check out my previous videos on rail franchises, and do consider liking, subscribing and joining the channel. Thank you. Just to quickly recap, Virgin Trains West Coast began operations in 1997, taking over from British Rail, and operated intercity services out of London Euston towards Birmingham, Crewe, Manchester, Liverpool and Scotland on the Intercity West Coast franchise. They had a fleet of, by 2011, 20 5-car Class 221 Super Voyagers and 52 9-car Class 390 Pendolinos. However, 31 of these would be upgraded to 11 carriages with the introduction of 4 completely brand new 11-car units. Virgin also operated a single Mark III set hauled by a Class 90, nicknamed the Pretendolino, brought into service after a Pendolino was scrapped following the Grey Rig derailment in 2007. By 2011, Virgin West Coast were coming to the end of their initial 15-year franchise, which was due to end in March 2012. In January of 2011, the Department for Transport called for bidders to come forward and bid for the next Intercity West Coast franchise. In March, they announced that Abellio, First Group, Keolis SNCF, as well as the incumbent Virgin Rail Group had all been shortlisted to bid for the next franchise. However, by May, the Transport Secretary, Phil Hammond, confirmed that Virgin's end date for the franchise of March 2012 had been postponed, whilst the findings of the McNutley Rail Report on privatisation effectiveness were put into place. In October, the Department for Transport gave Virgin Trains an extension until December 2012. This contract extension came with the confirmation that the 11-car Class 390 Pendolinos would enter service before December 2012, with the 4 brand new trains and 31 existing upgraded trains, allowing Virgin to add 28,000 seats to its services every day, an increase of 25%. Elsewhere, Virgin would withdraw 6 of its Class 57-3 Thunderbird rescue locomotives, with the Class 390 Pendolinos now up to a high reliability standard, meaning that they did not need all of the Class 57s that they had as rescue locos. The remaining Class 57s were returned by the end of 2012. On the topic of 2012, in January, an invite to tender was issued to the aforementioned shortlisted bidders, and in August the Department for Transport awarded the Intercity West Coast franchise to First Group, who would operate under the First West Coast brand name. Virgin's replacement would see a number of new benefits. These would include 11 brand new 6-car electric trains for London to Glasgow services, which would increase capacity by 12,000 seats a day. Furthermore, First would introduce new Euston to Blackpool, Telford Central, Shrewsbury and Bolton services, with Blackpool services being introduced in 2013. First would also cut journey times between Euston and Glasgow, introduce more Euston to Preston services, and reduce anytime fares by 15% by 2015. A £22 million station investment project would also go ahead, with smart ticketing technology also being introduced. This new franchise would begin on Sunday the 9th of December 2012 and would operate for 13 years, with an option to extend this by a further 2. The new franchise would mark the end of Virgin's rail operations, with Virgin founder Richard Branson confirming that the firm would not be looking into any further rail operations. However, as soon as the results came out, Virgin immediately spoke out against the decision, claiming that DFT's methodology in awarding franchises was flawed. Branson said that the civil servants had got their maths wrong regarding the financial aspects of the franchise, not too dissimilar to National Express and GNER, with the new franchise most likely ending in a similar fate to the two aforementioned. Eventually, Virgin took legal action, leading to the suspension of the new first franchise, whilst an independent judicial review of the awarding was undertaken. This review fell in Virgin's favour and meant that the franchise awarded to First was unjust, with the DFT finding severe flaws in the franchise procurement process, with Virgin given a 23-month contract extension in December 2012, running until November 2014, with First's franchise voided and all potential upgrades scrapped. New Transport Secretary Patrick McLaughlin faced a grilling from opposition MPs, with the whole franchise failure costing taxpayers £40 million, as well as broken promises for new fleet and upgrades. In March, the DfT announced that the franchise would once again be extended, this time giving operations to Virgin until March 2017. Away from franchising, in May 2013, Virgin were under fire for their brand new uniforms that they introduced, with blouses being too revealing, with Virgin giving female staff a £20 voucher to purchase a top to go underneath the new blouses. Elsewhere, the use of the Pretendolino set was cut, now only operating peak services from Euston to Birmingham on Thursdays and Fridays. Also in 2013, Virgin began sponsoring Carlisle United Football Club, as well as further football clubs such as Darlington and Preston North End, also sponsoring events such as the Manchester International Festival. In November, despite plans being rejected just months earlier in July, the Office of Rail Regulation gave Virgin permission to begin new daily services from London Euston to Shrewsbury and Blackpool, with direct London services resuming from the two towns for the first time since the early 2000s. In December 2013, Virgin boosted the number of Birmingham to Scotland services. There would now be 3,300 additional seats per day on services to compete with airlines, with 28 weekly services from Birmingham to Glasgow, with 24 of these from London Euston, a 34% increase in services. 2014 was a much quieter year, with the new Shrewsbury and Blackpool North services commencing, as well as the end for Pendolino operations, with Virgin now having 35 11-car Pendolinos, 56 in total. 2015 was equally as quiet, with 390-002 being renamed in memory of Stephen Sutton, a fundraiser for the Teenage Cancer Trust. Elsewhere, Virgin introduced a new 30-minute automatic delay repay compensation scheme, with this automatic delay repay scheme being the first in the whole country. 2016 was much more interesting, in terms of the franchise at least. In November, the DfT confirmed the franchise would be changed, with the Intercity West Coast franchise being changed into the West Coast Partnership, a franchise which would include the operations of HS2, which, at the time, would run from Euston to Birmingham, Manchester, Wigan, Sheffield and Leeds. This new franchise would run the West Coast Mainline from 2019, and then HS2 services from opening in 2026. This announcement came with Virgin getting a new contract extension until March 2019, taking the average dividends per year for the Virgin Group to £17 million. Elsewhere in 2016, in July, Virgin introduced a new media onboard entertainment site, which would allow movies, TV shows and more to be streamed free to passengers' own devices. The system was described by creators Go Media as the first in-train entertainment portal in the UK. 2016 was also the first year that passengers on the Intercity West Coast franchise had reached 35 million, with passenger numbers rising by over 6.5 million in just 5 years, from 2011. This number would eventually reach just shy of 40 million, with passenger figures being one of the largest positives of privatisation, with this figure being double of what passenger figures were in 1997, when Virgin took over the franchise. 2017 was another pretty quiet year for the operator, with Virgin being criticised in July for a series of frequent short notice cancellations on weekends due to a shortage of drivers. This shortage came due to the fact that drivers had to volunteer to work on rest day weekends, with June and July being months where less drivers volunteered to work, with many drivers on holiday and with family, leading to many passengers taking to social media to attack the company and its poor performance. In February 2018, Virgin's last full year as an operator, unless they won the new franchise, they were given yet another extension until March 2019, with an option to extend it even further to 2020 if needed. In March, this optional extension was quashed when Virgin received their 5th extension until September 2019. This came at the same time as the DfT launched bidding for the West Coast Partnership franchise, with, in June, the DfT confirming that 3 consortiums had been chosen to bid for the franchise. These were First Group Trenitalia, MTR Guangshen Renfe, and a trio consortium of Stagecoach, SNCF and Virgin. In December, Virgin received another extension until March 2020, with this eventually being cut to December 2019. Elsewhere in 2018, services to Blackpool North and Shrewsbury were increased, with there now being 4 trains per day to Blackpool North as part of the May 2018 timetable change, which also saw Class 390 services to the newly electrified Blackpool North station. By 2019, Many wondered whether Virgin would be able to win the next franchise, with some speculating that they would be in with a good chance of doing so, due to their performance of the West Coast franchise thus far. These speculations, however, were quickly quashed in April, when it was revealed that Stagecoach had been disqualified from the bidding process due to a dispute over pension liabilities with the DFT, with the disqualification occurring after the bidding process deadline, meaning that Virgin would also be disqualified, which would confirm the end of Virgin's services by the end of 2019, with Virgin Trains hitting out at the Department for Transport over the disqualification, even taking the DFT to court, however to no avail. But this left one huge question: who would replace them? First Group Trenitalia or MTR Guangshen Renfei? Well, in August, the DFT opted to award the West Coast Partnership franchise, including the Intercity West Coast franchise and HS2 operations, to First Group Trenitalia, who would trade under the Avanti West Coast brand name. And with that, on the 7th of December 2019, at 23:45, the final Virgin train service arrived at its destination, the 2142 Euston to Wolverhampton service, which ended 22 years of operations, handing over to the now infamous Avanti West Coast. However, this wasn't the end of Virgin trying to get back on the railway scene. Despite failed legal action regarding Stagecoach's disqualification, Virgin did submit a bid to begin open access operations between Liverpool and Euston in late 2019, however withdrew this bid in March 2020, citing the potential renationalisation of the railways following the William Shapps review. But this wouldn't be the end of Virgin. In May 2024, they submitted a new bid for 4 open access rail paths. These would entail several services per day out of Euston, running towards Manchester, Rochdale, Bolton, Chorley, Liverpool, Birmingham and Glasgow, just to name a few destinations that they would want to be operating to, running around 10 to 20 trains per day out of Euston, attempting to compete with Avanti West Coast. Unfortunately, we are yet to know the outcomes of this proposal, but in my opinion, I don't think we'll see all 4 of these rail paths being allowed, due to them being very closely related to Avanti's current services. Furthermore though, also in 2024, Virgin seek to start continental services from Europe into London via the Channel Tunnel, so it's quite likely that we will once again see a Virgin-branded train roam Britain's railway network, whether that's under the Channel Tunnel or from the West Coast, where they used to operate, or perhaps both. Who knows? But the big question still remains: does Virgin deserve the praise it has been given as an operator? Well, in my opinion, definitely yes. Compared to some of the failures of privatisation, including a certain other Virgin franchise, Virgin Trains were definitely one of, if not the best rail franchise, which no longer operates. They introduced new services, a new groundbreaking fleet of trains, including the Class 390 Pendolino, doubled passenger numbers since the start of the franchise, and had some of the most iconic branding there's ever been on the rail network. I haven't even begun to mention the staff and the level of service which they provided. Sure, Virgin weren't perfect, but they managed to battle their way through the tumultuous years of the West Coast Mainline upgrade and truly transformed travel on the West Coast Mainline. Yes, it does feel weird not slating a rail operator, but this is, in my opinion, an operator which has been a success of privatisation, being part of just a select few operators. But what do you think? Do you think Virgin deserves the praise that they receive, or do you have less fond memories of the operator? And what are your thoughts of Virgin potentially returning as an open access operator or operating services out of the Channel Tunnel? Do let me know in the comments below, and a huge thanks for watching this 2-part series on Virgin. Do consider subscribing if you have enjoyed. Also, huge thanks to my first class members Callum Martin Bell, Crispin McKee and random username 3040, and my business zone members Andrew Bowen, Anthony Harris, Anthony James Moore, ARK, Connor Grieg, Craig Mitchell 43, Jay Teco and Lewis C21, and I also can't forget all my standard class members. You can get your name on this list from as little as £2.99 a month and help me to make my videos. I really do appreciate it, though thank you. As well as this, thanks to everyone that's let me use their footage for today's video. You can find their channels in the description or the pinned comment. Thanks so much for watching. Check out my Twitter, Discord and Instagram in the links below, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.